Welcome to the training. Today's training is called How to Get Better Math Scores Without More Effort. And I want to start with, I want to have your attention here because what I'm about to share is incredibly valuable information. So first, I'd ask if you could just turn your phones off or on airplane mode. And second, remove distractions, because this information I'm about to share is 12 years in the making, both with what I've seen from 7.2 million students in math, as well as conversations with some of the top test takers. So with that, let's get started. How to get better math scores without more effort. A common misconception by many average or below average math students is you have to be born smart, you got to have rich parents who can hire incredible tutors, or you got to know somebody. And for this training, I wanted to dispel that myth and get you on the right path to what the top exam takers are doing. And one of the first things I want to introduce you to is something called M cubed. So we'll just do that. And I'll explain what that is in a minute. But this right here, what I'm about to show you, is the secret behind the best math students and test takers on the planet. And again, this has nothing to do with money in the bank or connections or being born, another Einstein. This has to do with systems. So if you work on the systems and the part of the systems, which I'll explain in a moment, the end results, the grades, the test scores, admission to college works itself out. And so I'm incredibly excited to share this with you. So let's get into M cubed. M cubed is just this. It's M times M times M. Let's talk about the first M. The first M is mental models. Now, if you've never heard of mental models, Elon Musk has given interviews about how he built rockets for cheaper. Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger, has talked about how they've had such an incredible track record with investments. What does this mean to you? Mental models are a way of thinking about thinking. If we think of the brain as a toolbox, we are only as good as the tools in the toolbox. Would you agree? Now, if you're still with me, the best students in math and exam takers use mental models. When a math problem comes up, an average student, or even a sort of decent student, is trying to figure out first, what formulas do I use? What are my next steps? The best students in the world have mental models. And so the first thing they do is they're identifying what type of problem it is. So type of problem. And then the second thing they're doing is once they identify the type of problem, they have a built-in algorithm to solve it. So once they have the type, they have a formula, they solve the problem, they move on to the next one. They're not dwelling on the big esoteric lessons of the textbook or what does this all mean. They're data-driven, formula-driven machines to get to a solution and then move on to the next one. So a few mental models that I'm going to introduce to you from math that will change your life. The first is, and this is from Charlie Munger's Charlie Munger's Inversion interview. So if you've never heard of inversion is most people, when they're trying to figure out how to do something, a new skill, a new sport, networking, math, most people start off with, how do I do this right? What are the formulas I need? What do I need to do? Inversion reverses this. Inversion says, what are all the things I would do wrong to hurt my progress? So for math scores and exam scores, think about it. What things would you do to hurt your performance? And here's a few. Lack of sleep is one. Poor diet is two. Because we know both of these two affect how your brain functions, how it processes. Here's another one. Poor habits. I've given you these two poor habits. What are other poor habits? Procrastination is one. Two is poor mindsets. The people that struggle the most in math are the ones that have poor mindsets. And one of those is, I'm just not good at math, or I wasn't born successful. The best test takers and math students I know all started off average. Some of them started off at D's, but they eventually worked their way to A's. How can this be? The first thing is mental models. They have models and systems in their head for how to approach math. And if you think of it as a checklist for making decisions, once you optimize the checklist, your performance works itself out. So inversion seeks to figure out what you do to hurt your performance and just eliminate it. Why does this work? Because it is easier to take things away from your habits than it is to add new habits. So the first thing math students who are struggling say is, I got to study more, I got to try harder, I got to do this, I got to do that. That's not the answer. Take away the bad habits, and a lot of these problems you're experiencing will work themselves out. The next mental model is called, next mental model is called first principles. So Elon Musk gave an interview a couple of years ago, and he was asked, how did he build rockets for cheaper? And the big takeaway from that interview is he broke rocket building down to the materials and the process. And what he found was he can get the materials of the rocket on the metal exchanges for about, I think he said 40 to 50% cheaper. So he knows how to build the rocket. He's just getting the materials cheaper, which is why he's able to build cheaper rockets. How does this affect you, the math student? Well, first principles is incredibly important in math because all math subjects, as you move up, are cumulative knowledge. And what that means is, if you move up from basic math to algebra, if you struggled in basic math, you're going to be even farther behind in algebra because why? Algebra uses basic math principles. And so first principles, the definition of that, like Elon Musk said, is breaking things down to the most basic truths, things we can't simplify anymore. Here's an example. I'm going to give you a simple algebra equation. Even if you're not in algebra, this is important for you. When I look at this equation, the average math student is trying to figure out, oh, how do I solve this? What do I do with the numbers? You know what the expert math student does that has mental models? They say this. This is a constant. This is a variable. Here's a constant. And here's another constant. And then they recognize this. They instantly recognize this is a two-step equation. And once their brain figures out that first model, the second one is, what is the algorithm or formula to solve this? And once they have that, which is just C minus B all over A, and this is A, this is B, this is C, they can run through these problems in seconds. And do you see the power of this? Because if they're not struggling to figure out a formula, they identify this, they know what the problem is. By the way, that's a huge loss of time on exams with the students that struggle. It's not so much that they don't know how to solve the problem once they figure out the type, it's identifying the type of problem. And so first principles takes the most basic truths of math. We know this is a variable and a constant, constant, and when it's written in this form, we know it's a two-step equation. When we identify the type of math problem faster and faster, it gives us more time to solve the problems. And the third one I want to introduce to you, the third mental model, which is used by all expert math students, is called this: iteration. Iteration is you try something, and you can think of it as an A/B test. You get a certain score, and then what you do is you go back, figure out what you did right, keep doing more of that. Whatever you did wrong, go back and figure out what you did wrong, improve it, and take the test again. So one of the smartest, most incredible test takers I ever met does this, and this is going to blow your mind. When he takes a new math test, what he does is he doesn't even go through the textbook. He doesn't even study. What he does is he takes the test first. So first step, take the test. Step 2, he focuses on the wrong answers. Step 3, he goes back and studies the wrong answers. Step 4 is he retakes the test. And then step 5, he just repeats this process over and over again. Now here's why this is incredibly powerful. After 3 or 4 iterations of this, by the way, this is one iteration, the first 3 steps, and then he repeats it. The magic happens because after the third or fourth iteration, he's covered everything he needs to study. So the stuff he knows is embedded into his head. The stuff he doesn't know, he's focusing on that. After 3 or 4 iterations, the amount of stuff he doesn't know goes down and down and down. Here's the key. Sometimes when he takes the first test, this is his best score, a D. Now, a lot of students would do that and they would just tune out mentally. Oh my God, I got a D, I don't know what I'm doing. The expert test taker that I'm telling you about here doesn't care. This, to him, is not failure. It's called feedback. Okay, I tried something, 1 thing worked, 5 things didn't. Now I got to go back and I got to figure out what are the 5 things that didn't work and how do I get them to work. So iteration is an incredibly powerful mental model, and anybody can do this. I don't care what your background is, rich, poor, born into a good family, born smart, born not so smart, it doesn't matter. Iteration, if you continue to do it, makes you automatically smarter with each iteration. So there are hundreds of these mental models, but for the sake of this presentation and time, I'm going to leave you with these 3. There's inversion, there's first principles, and iteration. So that is the first M, mental models. The second M, we're going to come over here, mindset. That's the second M. The best math students, and I don't care if they started off with D's or they started off with B's, have a picture in their head of them as expert students. Even if they don't have the grades to back it up, when they approach a new quiz, a new concept, a test, they're walking into that test with the assumption that they're an A student. Now, how can that be? It's a principle called act as if. And you may have heard of this before. Act as if is, what would you, if you were an A student or a B student or whatever your goal is, how would you act? What would your habits be? How would you think? If you act as if an A student or even a B student, but your grade is higher, what would be the difference between that person and how you are now? Well, I'll tell you the first thing, you'd be a lot more relaxed. Why? What is the main source of math anxiety? And I want you to dig deep on this one. There's a lot of students that experience math anxiety. Think about the source of the math anxiety. Close your eyes if you need to think about it. Math anxiety comes from one thing. It's this: uncertainty. If you don't know something or don't recognize it, you start to panic. But the difference between the best math students and the average ones is this. When uncertainty happens, most students panic, right? They get math anxiety. The expert student, or the one who gets the good grades, that has the act as if, doesn't get nervous. And I'm going to go back to a concept I covered before. It's not failure, it's feedback. And so as you approach this idea of your ideal grade, how do you think? Who are you talking to? What kind of study habits do you have? If you hold that frame in your mind, you'll eventually start to adopt the behaviors. And so uncertainty goes down, math anxiety goes down, confidence goes up. And if you work on your mindset every day of, it's not failure, it's simply a piece of feedback. I need to work on more iterations. I need to work on inversion. I need to work on first principles. As you repeat these habits to yourself, you start to get better. Now, here's something else fascinating with the act as if principle. We did a little study just to show the power of having a mindset of act as if you're an A math student. And here's what happened. We took a YouTube video and we laced it with 10 positive math affirmations. Things like, math comes easy to me. Every day I wake up and I finish my homework without stress. I am an A math student. I think we did 10 math affirmations and we put a little relaxing music in the background. We had 25 students who use our YouTube channel. So 25 students listen to this thing on repeat for at least, I think each loop was 30 minutes. So some of them listened to it once, some of it did 2 times. Some of them fell asleep with it on loop, because when you go to sleep, your subconscious is still picking that up. Why is this important to you? All 25 students when they took the quiz next day or the test, got 1 letter grade better. 1 letter grade up. Now here's what's fascinating about that. They didn't change their study habits, didn't change their tutor, didn't change anything about anything else except letting this YouTube messaging, positive messaging, seep into their brain the night before they took a quiz or a test, and they all got better letter grades. Here's what else is fascinating. When they walked into the exam, some of the students commented, I felt more relaxed. I wasn't worried about failure. I felt like I am the math student I was supposed to be. So the key here with the mindset and the act as if is, if you hold a frame that you're a good math student, and you could say a B, an A, an exceptional, if you hold that frame, eventually your subconscious is going to start to believe it, because your subconscious can't tell the difference between make-believe and real. So if you're feeding the messaging to your brain of, I am an A math student, you're going to start to act like one. You're going to behave like one. You're going to adopt the habits of an A math student. And so this is the second M of the M cubed model. So we have mental models and we have mindset as the second one. Now I want to close out this presentation with the third M because this wraps it all up. So the third M is momentum. If you do the mental models right and you hold the act as if frame and you repeat these processes over and over again, and so it starts to become embedded in your subconscious and in your habits. You're almost replacing bad habits with good ones. The bad habits go away, you adopt some good habits, but you just practice by holding this frame, adopting the mental models that matter, and treating math like a system. Don't even look at it as a class or grade, it's a system. The system inputs are the models you have in the mindset. Those are inputs. The outputs are your grade. Don't focus so much on the outputs. Handle the inputs and the outputs work themselves out. But here's where momentum comes in. If you adopt mental models, the correct ones, and the mindset, momentum starts to take over. In fact, I referred to Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's partner, earlier in the presentation on inversion. He said there's a super mental model once you get a lot of these working together, and it's called the Lollapalooza effect. So some of you may have been to the Lollapalooza concert. It's the same spelling, it's the same word. Lollapalooza happens when all these systems start working together. They don't add up, so it's not a 1 + 1 + 1 is 3. It's a multiplicative gain. It's an exponential gain, which is why I want to come back to this formula. The third M is momentum. Notice how I didn't write 3M. I didn't do that. That's additive. I did M cubed because when this and this and this work together, the Lollapalooza effect happens. And so as you adopt these better habits, as you adopt these better models in your head, as you adopt the mindset of an A student, you start to steer in the right direction of how to get the grades. And it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't even matter if you have money or not for a good tutor. This M cubed system is a multiplicative gain in your life. And anybody, any student in any math class at any level can adopt this. But these are the 3 keys, the 3 M's for every great math student I've ever seen. Combine these 3 M's, repeat the process, focus on these 3 things, and these start to carry you to heights you'll never imagine. So if this resonated with you, I want to invite you to book a call, because if you want all this package in a system, I mean, you could do this yourself and it's great. You could take this presentation, script it out, take some notes and try to do it yourself. But if you want help and you want some additional mental models, because we only had time for 3 today, if you want some additional mindset tricks to skyrocket you to better grades with less math anxiety, then I want you to click the button below this video and book a call. And on the call, we'll walk through what class you're going through, the problems you're having, and then I'll see if I can help you. Maybe I'm a good fit for you, maybe I'm not. I mean, at the very least, you could take away this M cubed system. It'll change your life. But if you want additional help, if you want some consulting, we can get on a call, no obligations, and we can walk through a few other tips. If you had questions about the presentation, we can dive deeper into that. But click the button below if you want additional help. We'll get on a call and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. With that, I want to thank you for watching, and please check out the M-Cube system.